Most people wouldn't have looked twice at the ragged dog huddled beside the rusted fence. His fur was matted into clumps, patches of skin raw and bare. His back leg dragged when he shifted, and every rib showed like a ladder under his skin. To most, he was nothing more than a nuisance, something broken, something forgotten. But 9-year-old Lily saw him differently. She didn't just see a dog, she saw someone waiting to be noticed. It was the first Saturday of summer vacation. The air smelled of cut grass and warm earth, and cicadas buzzed lazily in the trees. Lily sat in the passenger seat of her uncle's beat-up red truck, humming to herself as they drove past endless fields. She lived with Uncle Henry ever since her mom had passed away the year before. He was a quiet man, not unkind, just reserved. He didn't say much unless he needed to, but he always made sure Lily had what she needed: food on the table, books to read, and a little space in the world to be herself. On weekends, he sometimes let her ride along while he ran errands. She loved those drives. Uncle Henry wasn't the type to chatter, but Lily liked the silence between them. It felt steady, safe. That day, they were heading to an old farm at the edge of town. The farmer had piles of scrap metal and lumber, and Uncle Henry wanted to see if he could buy some for cheap. "Keep close while I look around," he said as he parked, his voice gruff but gentle. Lily nodded, hopping down from the truck. She promised she would, but curiosity tugged her feet in another direction. The farm was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels heavy. The barn leaned against the sky like it might collapse at any second. Paint peeled from the fence posts and weeds pushed through every crack in the dirt. That's when she saw movement in the corner of her eye. A dog. He was curled tightly against the fence, half hidden in the shade. At first, she thought he might be asleep, or worse. But then his ears flicked, and he raised his head just slightly. Their eyes met. Something inside Lily's chest tightened. His gaze wasn't angry, wasn't wild. It was tired. A tired so deep it looked like it reached into his bones. She stepped closer, careful not to scare him. His fur was a tangled mess, brown and black, stiff with dirt. A chain looped around his neck, tied to a bent fence post. He looked like he had been waiting there for far too long. "Who's that?" Lily asked softly, turning toward the farmer nearby. The man glanced up. "From sorting lumber." "That one?" He shrugged. "Stray that limped in last winter. Hurt his leg. Useless now. Won't hunt, won't guard. If you want him, $3. Lily froze. $3? She thought of the little jar she kept in her backpack, the one with crumpled bills and loose change. She had saved every penny over the past months, sweeping floors at the hardware store, collecting cans, even helping Mrs. Green next door carry groceries. Exactly 3 wrinkled bills, folded so many times they were soft at the edges. She felt her heart pounding as she whispered, "3?" The farmer nodded. "3." Lily turned to Uncle Henry, who had just walked up carrying a stack of wood. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "Please, Uncle Henry. I think he needs me." He studied her for a long moment, his eyes narrowing slightly. Uncle Henry wasn't one for quick decisions. He liked to think things through, to measure twice and cut once. And yet, when he looked from Lily's face to the broken dog at the fence, something softened in him. "You're sure about this?" he asked. Lily nodded hard. "I'm sure." Without waiting for another word, she dug into her backpack and pulled out the 3 precious bills. Her hands shook as she pressed them into the farmer's rough palm. The man barely looked at the money. "He's yours now," he muttered, turning back to his work. But Lily didn't hear him. She was already kneeling beside the dog, her heart swelling in her chest. Up close, he looked even worse. His paw dragged slightly when he tried to shift. His coat was coarse with burrs, and a faint scar crossed his muzzle. But when Lily reached out her hand, he didn't growl. He didn't pull away. He just looked at her with eyes that seemed to say, "Don't leave me." Uncle Henry bent down, his voice quiet. All right then. He unhooked the chain from the post. The metal clinked against the wood, and the dog blinked slowly, as if he couldn't believe he was free. He stood on unsteady legs, wobbly, hesitant, but standing. Lily smiled through the lump in her throat. "It's okay. I've got you now." The dog didn't resist when she stepped back. He followed, one step at a time, limping but determined, like he had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for her. The ride home felt different than any other. Lily sat in the back of the truck, the summer wind tugging at her hair. The dog lay close beside her, his head resting against her knee. She kept one hand gently on his back the whole drive, as if to reassure him he wasn't going to be left behind again. She thought of a name, something simple, something strong. Rusty. The name felt right, like a promise. When they reached home, Lily didn't rush him into the house. Instead, she led him to the old shed near the barn. It was her secret spot, the place she went when she wanted to draw or think or just be alone. That night, it became his place too. She spread blankets on the floor, filled a dish with clean water, and set out a bowl of leftover beef stew her uncle had saved. Rusty sniffed at it cautiously before lowering his head to eat. Every bite seemed hesitant, as though he wasn't sure it would last. Lily sat cross-legged a few feet away, watching quietly. When he finally curled into the blankets with a soft sigh, she leaned closer. "You're safe now, Rusty," she whispered. "I promise." And though his eyes stayed closed, his tail twitched once, just enough to let her know he had heard her. That night, as the crickets sang and the sky turned deep blue, Lily lay awake in her room, thinking about him. She didn't know where Rusty had come from or what he had survived. She only knew one thing for certain. Her 3 crumpled dollars had just bought her the best friend she'd ever have. The first days after Rusty came home were quiet. He rarely barked, rarely wagged his tail, but his presence was constant. Wherever Lily went, his eyes followed. She made it her mission to help him heal, not just his body, but his heart. Every morning before breakfast, she'd tiptoe out to the shed carrying a book and half a sandwich. She'd sit cross-legged on the floor, reading aloud in a soft voice. Sometimes she read fairy tales, sometimes magazine articles, sometimes her own scribbled stories. Rusty didn't move much, but his ears twitched at the sound of her voice. At lunchtime, she'd slip him pieces of her sandwich, always saving the soft middle of the bread just for him. And at night, she tucked her old teddy bear beside him before she left, whispering, "He'll keep you company, okay?" Uncle Henry watched all this from the porch, his arms folded. He never said much, but Lily noticed the way his eyes softened when he saw them together. He had doubted, at first, whether the broken dog would ever recover. But watching Lily's gentle persistence stirred something in him too, something like hope. The changes came slowly, almost too quiet to notice. One morning, Rusty lifted his head as soon as Lily opened the shed door. The next, he pushed himself up to sit, rather than lying flat. A few days later, he even stood and limped to meet her at the threshold. The biggest change came one warm evening. Lily was humming softly as she swept straw from the shed floor. The door opened to the golden light of sunset. Rusty lay nearby, his eyes half closed. Suddenly, his tail twitched. Once, then again. Lily froze, her breath catching. She wasn't sure if she had imagined it. But then Rusty's tail gave another uncertain wag, and Lily's face broke into the brightest smile she'd worn in months. It wasn't just a wag, it was a beginning. From then on, Rusty grew stronger every day. He ate with more appetite, his coat started to shine, and he began to shadow Lily wherever she went, limp and all. Uncle Henry noticed something else, though. One afternoon, while flipping through TV channels. He stopped on a documentary about military service dogs. As the sound of marching boots and barking commands filled the room, Rusty's ears shot up. He snapped to attention, his posture rigid, eyes sharp. Henry sat forward slowly. "You see that, Lily?" he whispered. Lily looked at Rusty, startled. She had never seen him like this, alert, focused, almost trained. Later, in the yard, Lily accidentally dropped a metal bucket. The clang was sharp and sudden, before she could even react. Rusty lunged forward, planting himself between her and the noise, growling low. It wasn't the reaction of a stray. It was the instinct of a protector. The biggest surprise came one evening when Lily, half joking, pointed her finger at Rusty and whispered, "Bang!" To her shock, Rusty dropped instantly to the ground, rolling onto his side, still as stone. Lily gasped. "I didn't teach him that." Uncle Henry folded his arms, his voice low. "That dog's seen training, serious training." Lily stared at Rusty, her heart thumping. Who had he been before? What had he survived? She didn't know, but she knew one thing. He wasn't just remembering his past. He was choosing his future with her. That summer evening was still and golden, the air heavy with the hum of cicadas. Lily was barefoot in the backyard, chasing soap bubbles that shimmered, like tiny rainbows in the fading sun. Rusty lay beneath the oak tree, his eyes never straying far from her. Lily bent near the fence to pluck a cluster of daisies. She didn't notice the shape sliding through the tall grass. A rattlesnake, its scales blending with the earth, its tongue flicking as it fixed on her small, warm frame. Rusty noticed. In an instant, he was up. A sharp, desperate bark split the air, startling the birds from the trees. Lily turned in confusion, just as Rusty charged toward her. He hit her hard, knocking her sideways into the grass, just as the snake lunged. The world blurred. Lily cried out as she fell, but Rusty was already between her and the threat, his teeth bared, his growl thunderous. The snake struck again, fast and merciless, sinking its fangs into Rusty's leg. He yelped but didn't retreat. With a furious snarl, he lunged, clamping his jaws around the serpent's body. He shook it with every ounce of strength left in him until the snake's body fell still. Then silence. Lily scrambled to his side, her small hands trembling. "Rusty! Rusty, no, please!" He turned his head toward her, tail wagging weakly. But his legs gave way, his body trembling as venom spread through his veins. "Uncle Henry!" Lily screamed. Her uncle sprinted from the porch, his face paling at the sight. The snake, the trembling dog, the girl who could have been the one bitten. For a heartbeat, he froze, imagining what could have happened. Then instinct took over. He scooped Rusty into his arms. "We've got to get him to the vet, now." The drive to town was a blur of dust and panic. Lily sat in the back seat, cradling, Rusty's head in her lap, whispering through sobs, "Please hold on. Please don't leave me. You saved me. Now let me save you." Rusty's breathing was shallow, his eyes flickering open for only seconds at a time. Uncle Henry gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, the old truck roaring faster than it had in years. When they screeched into the parking lot of the small veterinary clinic, Dr. Alvarez was already rushing out. "Snake bite." "Yes, he took it for her," Henry panted. "Inside, quickly!" Rusty was rushed onto a table, tubes and wires connected within moments. Dr. Alvarez worked quickly, his voice calm but urgent. Lily stood frozen at the doorway, her uncle's hand firm on her shoulder. "You did the right thing bringing him here," the vet said. "Now let me try to bring him back." Hours passed. The sun set. The waiting room fell into silence except for the faint hum of machines behind the closed doors. Lily curled against her uncle's arm, clutching the teddy bear she had once left for Rusty in the shed. She couldn't stop whispering the same words. "Please, please, please." At last, the door swung open. Dr. Alvarez appeared, wiping his brow. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "He's stable," he said softly. "It was close, but your dog, he's got the will to live." Lily's tears burst free again, but this time they were tears of relief. When she was finally allowed into the exam room, she saw Rusty lying on a padded table, his leg bandaged, an IV in place. His eyes were open, tired but alive. And when he saw Lily, his tail tapped faintly against the table. She rushed to his side, whispering, "Hi, buddy. You came back." Rusty gave a soft grunt, pressing his nose into her hand. And in that moment, Lily knew. He hadn't just saved her life. He had chosen her as his. Uncle Henry stood in the doorway, his rough voice unsteady. Sometimes the smallest choices change everything. Lily looked at Rusty, remembering the 3 crumpled bills she had given away. She smiled through her tears. $3, she whispered, and he gave me the world. Rusty let out a long sigh, his head heavy in her lap. Safe, home, loved. And in that quiet room, they both finally knew what it meant to be found.